Some monsters hide in myths, some hide in bedtime stories. But the worst ones? The most disturbing, bone-deep, terrifying monsters? Yeah, they were real. Today we're counting down 10 real-world figures more horrifying than the legends based on them. If you thought Dracula was bad, oh boy, that's the tutorial level. Let's begin. 1. Vlad the Impaler. The real Dracula was worse than the fiction. Vlad III, the man who inspired Dracula. Except comparing Vlad to Dracula is like comparing a thunderstorm to a light drizzle. The vampire version drinks blood. Vlad drained entire armies of hope. He grew up surrounded by betrayal, hostage-taking, and death, and he paid attention. Vlad didn't invent impalement, but he perfected it with the enthusiasm of someone choosing a hobby. Witness accounts describe bodies stacked on stakes like forests of human suffering, stretching across hillsides, swaying in the wind. The smell carried for miles. An Ottoman force once turned around immediately after seeing it. Because how do you fight someone who decorates with corpses? Dracula is spooky. Vlad was strategy, cruelty, and terror weaponized. 2. Elizabeth Bathory, the blood countess without the fantasy filter. Elizabeth Bathory is often portrayed as a seductive vampire bathing in blood. The real woman? Less romantic, more nightmare fuel with a title. She tortured servants for entertainment, burning, cutting, freezing, starving, often under the guise of discipline. Witnesses testified that her castle echoed with screams and that girls were dragged in knowing they would never walk out. Did she bathe in blood? Probably not. Did she cause enough suffering to make that rumor believable? Absolutely. Her crimes were so numerous and her nobility so powerful that her trial had to be crafted carefully because convicting someone that elite risked collapsing political alliances. People made up the vampire myth not to exaggerate her crimes, but because saying the truth plainly felt impossible. 3. Gilles de Rais, Joan of Arc's companion, and France's hidden monster. Gilles de Rais fought bravely beside Joan of Arc, praised as a hero, rewarded with wealth and prestige. But after the war, something inside him twisted. Children vanished around his estates, servants whispered, villagers stopped letting their kids roam far. When he was finally investigated, the horrors uncovered were beyond imagination. He wasn't a werewolf. He wasn't a demon. He was a nobleman with absolute power and a mind that spiraled into darkness. He committed acts so grotesque the court sealed parts of the record, because even hardened officials couldn't stomach the details. In stories, monsters stalked children under moonlight. Gilles did it in broad daylight, wearing fine clothing. 4. Emperor Nero, Rome's golden monster. Nero is shown in movies as eccentric, theatrical, flawed. Reality, he was a human disaster with imperial resources. He murdered his own mother. He eliminated rivals like clearing furniture. He hosted parties where live human torches lit the gardens. He spent more time rehearsing music than running the empire and more energy killing critics than improving anything. When Rome burned in a catastrophic fire, Nero didn't help. He blamed an entire religious minority and executed them in ways designed for maximum spectacle. The myth paints him as a spoiled tyrant. The truth paints him as a sociopathic artist with a kingdom to break. 5. Rasputin, the man. More disturbing than the legend, Rasputin is remembered as a mystical wizard with hypnotic powers. Sure, right, but the real nightmare was his influence. He inserted himself into the Russian royal family, manipulated the Tsarina, and gained political sway far beyond his station. Women were told sleeping with him purified their sins. Powerful men feared crossing him. He treated Russia's monarchy like a cracked vase he alone could hold together. His death became myth because he was allegedly poisoned, shot, bludgeoned, stabbed, and still tried to escape. But his life? That's the part people should really talk about. Manipulation doesn't need magic, it just needs opportunity. And Rasputin took everyone. 6. Attila the Hun, when Scourge of God was an understatement. Attila is usually portrayed as a barbarian on horseback, swinging a sword and yelling a lot. That's the children's version. The real Attila ran a mobile extinction event. Cities that resisted him didn't just fall, they vanished. Populations were wiped out, fields burned, survivors enslaved or mutilated. His armies moved like a storm, fast and brutal, leaving nothing but smoke and bones behind them. Roman historians, who were not exactly squeamish, said Attila's presence felt like a punishment from heaven. And these were the same people who watched gladiators fight lions for sport. Attila didn't need magic or mythology. He simply turned fear into a weapon sharper than anything in his arsenal. 7. Peter Stumpp, the Werewolf of Bedburg. The legend was mercy. In the 1500s, when mutilated bodies began appearing around Bedburg, Germany, people blamed a werewolf. It was easier than believing what was actually happening. Peter Stumpp confessed to a series of killings so brutal that townspeople literally preferred the idea of a supernatural beast. He mutilated victims, practiced cannibalism, and terrorized villages in ways no animal ever could. Stories later claimed he wore a magic belt that turned him into a wolf. The truth? He didn't need one. Human cruelty was more than enough. The legend was the softer explanation. And that should tell you everything. 8. Queen Ranavalona I, the Mad Queen who terrified a nation. From 1828 to 1861, Madagascar was ruled by a queen who made tyrants look like motivational speakers. Ranavalona imposed poison trials on entire communities. If you survived, you were innocent. If you died, well, case closed. She forced tens of thousands into deadly labor, executed Christians, and launched purges that depopulated whole regions. Her reign killed an estimated 1 million people, nearly half the population. European envoys documented the cruelty and still admitted, this was only what we were allowed to see. Her story isn't a legend. It's a warning about what absolute power unleashes when paired with absolute paranoia. 9. Ivan the Terrible. The name does not begin to cover it. Ivan IV was the first Tsar of Russia, and possibly the first to weaponize mental instability on a national scale. He created the Oprichniki, a black-cloaked death squad that tortured, beheaded, and massacred entire towns he suspected of disloyalty. He staged executions as dramatic performances, complete with costumes. He beat his pregnant daughter-in-law so badly she miscarried. When his son confronted him, Ivan struck him with a staff and killed him on the spot. His rage wasn't political, it was personal, chaotic, volcanic. Legends soften him because the truth feels impossible. Russia survived somehow in spite of its ruler. 10. H. Holmes, builder of the murder castle. In late 19th century Chicago, while the world marveled at innovation and industry, H. Holmes quietly constructed a 3-story monument to human disappearance. His hotel was a maze of hidden room chutes to the basement-sealed gas chambers doors that locked only from the outside soundproof torture spaces. Victims checked in expecting lodging. They found a labyrinth designed for murder. Holmes killed for profit, for convenience, for curiosity. He didn't need folklore to become a monster. He designed one into the architecture. Dracula haunted a castle. Holmes built one. Monsters in stories are easy to face. You can close the book. You can turn off the movie. You can remind yourself it's not real. But the monsters in history, the ones who ruled empires, drank power like water, and reshaped the world through fear, they remind us that the darkest horrors don't have claws or fangs, just crowns, titles, charm, and opportunity. Every legend begins with a truth too awful to explain directly. So we invent myths to soften it. We turn killers into creatures, tyrants into fairy tales, atrocities into metaphors because the real thing is too heavy to hold. But today, we held it anyway. If you want more stories like these, the ones hiding in shadows, buried beneath centuries of dust and denial, stick around. We've only scratched the surface of the nightmares history tried to forget. Thank you for watching. My name is Aaron, and I love history. Until next time, farewell.